It's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
All across America, we are Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Good morning. Hi, everybody. Hello. Well, looks like very soon we won't be hearing any more from jazz hands. You know, I think it was a writer for Town Hall. Yeah. That said one of the things that Democrats might be considering is that Amy Klobuchar would run for governor and become governor, and then she's in office until 2030, and then she'll take Tim Walz and put him as the U.S. Senator from Minnesota to finish the rest of her term.
Right.
I'm like, that'll solve the problem.
Yeah.
Because she's now getting blasted. She's getting blasted because it's like, who wrote this here? This was, the former New York Times reporter, Alex Berenson, who wrote, the speed of his collapse is stunning. And proof of the confluence of three powerful political and media trends. And I thought this was really good because I thought this really cut through everything to show what the real problem is. You know, the real problem is not that Governor Walz is being unfairly criticized for this, because if he thought he was truly being unfairly criticized, he wouldn't quit.
Right.
Right?
Right.
Because
you'd fight it.
These attacks from Republicans. Wow, Republicans just started attacking you and now you need to leave?
Right.
I mean, that's a bogus point to begin with. But I think this gets down to actually what's happening. Anger over unchecked immigration, which is growing, not shrinking, as the Trump administration proves the Biden White House and Democrats could have effectively shut down migration at any time from 21 to 24 and instead allowed and even encouraged it. Oh, I think he's wrong there. They created it.
Yeah.
It wasn't that they just allowed it to happen and, encouraged it. They created it. You have to go a step further. This was their plan. It wasn't that, they're coming across the border no. They did everything possible not to just encourage it, but to what's the word I'm looking at? Not just enable it, to create it.
Right.
To facilitate it.
Right.
That's the word I was looking at. I don't know why that was. I'm getting old.
Yeah, maybe.
That isn't that hard of a word. They facilitated it. They created it, and this was their plan. This was their goal. It wasn't that, it was just happening. We allowed it to happen, and then we just encouraged it. No. You created an infrastructure to allow it to happen. But it goes, then number two, the realization, and this is really important here, the realization that waste and outright fraud in quasi-welfare programs, particularly those administered by blue states but backstopped by the federal government, has reached massive levels. A federal prosecutor in Minnesota suggested that it might be $9 billion in that state alone in the last few years, or $1,500 per resident of Minnesota in just a handful of programs. The estimate suggests that hundreds of billions of dollars might have been wasted or stolen in New York, California, and other states. And also the rise of X as an outlet for citizen journalism, particularly on stories that conservatives favor and liberals would rather ignore, like the two above. What happens next, time will tell. But all three of these forces only seem to be becoming more powerful, and I would agree with that. I mean, that's the backstop behind it. And why did he leave? This, to me, if you were to ask me, from what I can see and what has been written on this is basically the Democratic Party. This is almost like anointing the opposite of anointing Kamala Harris.
Right.
This is a backdoor thing that's being done in order to put all the blame. The Democrats are trying to run from this. They're trying the number two, which is these massive programs exist, and these massive programs exist, but they because it's so big and so large, they actually don't keep track of where the money is going. Because this is what happens when you spend trillions of federal dollars on something and results don't matter.
And if you question anything, you're called a bigot or a racist along the way. And programs like this, by the way, that are wrought with fraud are not new. This kind of situation isn't new. At a state level, this is massive. This is huge. But you're right. The way that they tried to pack up Joe Biden and basically all of his baggage and put it in the back of that Corvette and send him back home was exactly what they think they're doing now. They think, if we can just, if Tim is just gone, he's no longer in the race and he's soon going to be no longer governor, however long that is. President Trump yesterday putting out that he believes that he may step down before his term is done.
He might have to.
He might.
Yeah.
And so you look at the dynamics, and the party would love to take all the baggage from this heaping, steaming $9 billion pile and put it in Tim's U-Haul.
Right. This is all Tim. This isn't the Democratic Party. That's the next goal of the Democrats.
Right. No, it's by the way, it's probably your only play here, but it won't work. There's no way it will work because of the awareness already about it.
I think it's the same thing that you hear from Democrats when they talk about the fact that, it was all Joe Biden's fault, and then it's all Kamala Harris's fault, and then Tim Walz, they just didn't do it right because Mamdani wins in New York, and so Americans will accept, making the mistake that New York City is America. Mm-hmm. That's the heartland of America. But again, I guess that's just as absurd as saying that Tim Walz could relate to the average flyover man and be the permission structure for men to vote for a black woman.
Yeah.
And I read one, I read so much, there's just so many articles on this yesterday, but one said, and it's true, it's like, if you want the patron saint for white guilt, it's Tim Walz. And you and I have talked about this before, the whole concept of white guilt. And logic tells you it's like, well, I'm not responsible because somebody with my skin color does something. Right. That's ridiculous.
Right.
Am I responsible because blue-eyed people might do something?
Well, it's, and that was the entire play all along, and you could see it. People like Governor Walz believe they're heroes. They believe they're going to be the hero. They're going to step in front of this bigotry and this hatred.
I think they think that using racism works, which it doesn't anymore.
No, it doesn't.
It's been used for...
It doesn't resonate.
My gosh, it's been used for almost the entirety of me being in talk radio.
Mm-hmm.
But I think what's being lost in all of this is it's either the fact that they're using it as a political weapon or they themselves, you and I have talked about this many times before, where does this come from? The Democrats just jump up no matter what the topic is. You're a racist, you're a racist, you're a racist, you're a racist. The whole thing of white guilt. Well, if you're black and you say, well, black people have a higher percentage of their population in committing crimes, and it makes me feel bad. It shouldn't make you feel bad.
Right.
It's not skin color that makes you do something.
No. Each individual is judged on their actions.
Right. You're judged on your actions. Now, culture, and this is the entire thing with the whole Somali thing. It's not the color of the skin. It's the culture that you come from. And there's a totally legitimate question if you come from a country where stealing from the government and stealing for whatever reason has become mainstream in that culture, don't be surprised if it's not all, but a significant number of people from that culture come to your country and do the exact same thing.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not racism.
No,
Culture-
again,
culture
it becomes that culture where if it's widely known, hey, these programs are here and it's real easy to get started. Boom, 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 boom. Next thing you know, it's just a domino effect. It's not even and it could be coordinated by different groups within that group. But if it's just widely known, they're all going to act in the same way if they all have the same mindset.
Right.
Oh, if the government's not going to check on this and we're going to get away with it, if that's their mindset, then they're going to behave in the same way. That's how you get to $9 billion on a state level.
But you and I have always said about Democrats, and it went on for years. Well, this is what I believe. Well, you're a racist. I'm not a racist. This is a better way to run the government. And you and I one time said, well, where does all this white guilt come from? You know, did you see the one where the one Mandani aide who talked about that property should be taken, especially from white people? Mm-hmm. You know, this. I mean,
yeah,
just
right.
And she's white.
Yeah.
And what I do believe, because people say, white guilt, where does that come from? It comes from the fact that you're a racist. Yeah. You're a racist and you feel guilty about it.
Right.
So all these liberals that talk about white guilt why would you go there? Because obviously it's logic to anybody. Any logical, critical thinking person says, my skin color does not define me. My eye color doesn't define, because this is how ridiculous it is. My hair color doesn't define me.
Mm-hmm.
My ugly face doesn't. Well, okay, that might define me sometimes. That's why I'm in radio and not TV.
That's why the COVID masks helped some people.
Well, not really.
That was pretty much the only hope.
Well, it seems like since then, young people just they're not really not interested in sex anymore.
Well, it's like a stand-up comedian Michael Vecchione had a special called The Attractives, and he talked about it, because he said, all of us people, the attractives, we had a disadvantage because we get treated better, but if we have a mask on, we don't get treated as well during COVID. It's a great special. But that's this entire scenario is a very basic scenario. Government pouring money into something without having any kind of check or audit along the way. And how hard is it when somebody, a YouTuber, and by the way, those people do work hard, an influencer, a guy who's just curious, whoever it might be, takes a camera, and everybody has one because everybody has a cell phone, and does his own investigation on X. Someone made the point that if Elon Musk had not bought X or Twitter back in the day when he bought it, that Governor Walz would still be governor or might be on his way to becoming the vice or may have become at some point the vice president. But the entire thing, because that guy posted, I don't know how many views that has now, the whole daycare video. But it's huge. It's massive. And that's the other point. It's stupid that we even have to have discussions about this when you know how things work. It's known that when you pour this kind of money and don't go back and audit into a state or whatever federal program, whatever it might be, that there's going to be fraud. There's going to be some level of fraud or somebody attempting fraud. And this went on to the tune of now just what we know, $9 billion. On a state level, that's massive. Remember the one program in California they were talking about spending on homeless and everything else? They had spent I think they said $12 billion. And then they went back and it didn't change a thing. Really?
Well, that's one of the reasons that conservatives talk about limitation of what the federal government's, obligations, responsibility, or authority should be. I guess authority would be the correct thing. That if you have states, we know, for example, the debt that we have is caused by the system that if states ran the majority of the programs, that there would be more accountability because it's closer to the people.
Right.
And, and that's why when you look at it, you try to raise property taxes and watch the protests that go on locally because people know, oh, I know who the tax assessor is. I know who the city council is. Mm-hmm. I just have to go down here to protest. Mm-hmm. We also know that since states can't borrow money like the federal government can, there's more accountability just there.
Yep.
You just can't say, well, just spend it and put it on future generations. Immorality always comes, or it's easier immorality when nobody is accountable or has to actually pay the bill or doesn't feel every day like they're paying the bill. Once you realize I'm paying the bill, it's a different concept.
Yep.
We're Red Eye Radio.
Brought to you by Hot Shot Secret.
Hi, I'm Jen Loomis, a transport safety expert at J.J. Keller. At a roadside inspection, inspectors may ask to see supporting documents. These documents can include bills of lading, itineraries, schedules, or equivalent documents that indicate the origin and destination of each trip. They can also include dispatch or trip records, expense receipts related to on-duty/not driving periods, electronic mobile communication transmitted through a fleet management system, and payroll records, settlement sheets, or equivalent documents that indicate payment to a driver. Drivers using paper logs must also keep toll receipts. Supporting documents must contain the driver's name, carrier-assigned identification number, or vehicle unit number that can be linked to the driver, the date, the name of the nearest city, town, or village, and the time. This tip was brought to you by J.J. Keller & Associates. Visit us at jjkeller.com.
Coming up, more with Gary McNamara and Eric Harley. It's Red Eye Radio.
We are Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Oh, excuse me there. But yeah, what happened yesterday, this is the Democratic Party trying to cover themselves. That's why it happened so quick. They realized that he is going to be an albatross around their neck for 2026. And, how they get out of it, I don't know. And like I said, I chuckled over the whole thing of Klobuchar becoming governor and then she appointing Tim Walz to finish the rest of her term. When I heard that one yesterday, I went,
oh my gosh.
Really? You're going to try to do that? I don't think that that's going to succeed for you, but be under no illusion. This is not because Tim Walz is accepting responsibility. It's because the Democratic Party has said, this guy's got to take the blame for it, because if not, people are going to be questioning now the welfare system in this country, the accountability of the welfare system, the fraud of the welfare system, and the entire system that we have set up of the federal government to spend trillions of dollars with not much accountability for where the money goes and not much concern about what the actual results are. And plus, it also brings up into it the entire identity politics. We cannot look at the fraud in these systems because you have certain ethnic groups and minorities that benefit from it, even if the benefit is fraud.
Right. No, this was party saying, listen, we need him to step aside. We need him out, and we're hoping all of his baggage will go with him on his U-Haul out the door whenever that's going to be. I don't know if that's the case. I don't believe that's going to happen.
Catch Red Eye Radio live every night on the Red Eye Radio app. Available in the App Store. Red Eye Radio.
And he is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. I did like yesterday. It's like, because of the Walz thing.
Yeah.
Is this going to affect Kamala Harris because she's still considering a run for the presidency in 2028? And I'm telling you, I think I got a sore throat from laughing so hard.
Yeah.
It's not going to help.
Right.
But she already had enough problems looking at 2028,
right,
especially from her run here in 2024.
Right.
So.
I understand she's considering Nicolas Maduro as her Veep candidate. I could be wrong.
Well, he said yesterday he's a good guy.
Nice.
I saw that one.
Come
I'm
on.
a good
See,
guy.
this is why I'd be a bad cop. Unlike my father, I'd be a bad cop. And I don't mean bad cop in the corrupt way. I mean just a horrible police officer. Come on, Sergeant. He said he didn't do it. Harley, he was holding the gun at the time, standing over the other guy. But this is, this entire thing is laughable because, quite frankly, Tim Walz's run as governor and the 107 days on Kamala's campaign, was it really that long? Was laughable as well. He's not qualified at all to run anything. Have you seen him? Have you heard him talk? He's not a critical thinker. He's not somebody who can govern. He's just not. And he was so worried. This is what this is shaping up to be. So worried about being the hero and the whole virtue signaling thing. Did you see the one video where he's sitting there and they're about to start shooting a video? I don't know if it was an interview or a campaign commercial. And he's sitting there and he's got the American flag on one side behind him and the Minnesota state flag on the other side. And he gets up and says, wait a minute. And he replaces the Minnesota state flag with a Somali flag. That's Tim Walz.
I mean, it is the fact that they don't see the horrible optics of that to independence. Because if we're looking at this as political consultants, that's what you're always looking at, where independence going.
Yeah,
you can't win that.
No,
you cannot win that. But when you think about it overall, and we had talked about this, year and a half ago, 2 years ago, when it went. Where are we now? Okay, January of 2026.
Right.
By the way, I thought about this. It was 9 years ago right now where you and I,
oh my God,
you and I were going, what is this Russia collusion thing with where did this come? Where the dossier?
We went on vacation before Christmas. And it was the Russians were interfering with the election. We got back, and it was Trump was colluding with the Russians.
Right. And it was, where did this come? I just wanted to bring that up because when I realized that was 9 years ago.
9 years. Yeah.
What? 9 years ago?
That's insane.
And think about this. There are still some people
that believe it.
Well, there are still some people that believe that Trump, I'd like to see a poll now on it, that believe that Trump colluded with the Russians when we all know. It was a setup by Hillary Clinton and the DNC.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But the one thing, though, because we saw a lot of this over the Christmas vacation, winter solstice holiday,
end of year break.
End of year break.
All the school districts are trying to get creative now. End of year.
At the end of the year, we got to have a break.
Student break, teacher break, custodian break.
But there was just and I'm sure you saw it, a ton of different articles out there. Look, the mainstream media isn't covering this, isn't covering it. They're not covering it. And you and I'm sure would have said the same thing if we would have been here, which was doesn't matter anymore. Social media is what drives everything.
Yeah. Yeah.
Social media is what drives it. That's why when you look at it, whether it's, CNN, well, okay, we'll add a few more conservative voices, even CBS.
Right.
Okay, we're going to do more fair news or whatever. It's the fact that people just aren't tuning in anymore, and that's not going to bring you more viewers. When you look at CNN, for example, and in fact, we have some Scott Jennings cuts coming up, and you and I have said over and over again, we play just the Scott Jennings portion of it, the response to it.
Mm-hmm.
But in order to get to the Scott Jennings portion of it, which is usually pretty good, you have to go through all the insanity of the 5 or 6 other panel members that are throwing out pure horse manure, and nobody wishes to stay around for that.
Well, that's the thing, and you're right. Social media drives it. Vivek Ramaswamy wrote an op-ed piece in the Wall Street Journal saying he himself is jumping off of social media, that his campaign and staff will still be putting out this stuff through social media, but he's not going to pay attention because he doesn't want it to control him. Well, the thing is you shouldn't have been if that was the case before.
What?
Exactly. If that was the case before, then that shouldn't have happened. You need to learn how to control how you respond to whatever's going on in social media, if it's dealing with you directly or your campaign. The point is that if you're in that arena, you've got to be on social media, and you've got to understand how social media is, in part, the feedback that you want from people on the ground, because it goes further to say in his op-ed piece that, I just want to go into these communities and talk to people and real people. That's part of it, too. But social media, every single day, is going to hand you information that's usable if you're running for office.
What is he talking about? The biggest impact that Ramaswamy has had in the past 2 months that has the Republican Party questioning where we're going, which was needed, was because of his ex-post.
Right. Yeah. He's still going to put stuff out. He's saying that he doesn't want to let the social media world influence him. Well, you should be strong enough to not do that. Because you and I have to pay attention to it.
Yeah.
Right? We're looking at it, and I'm not an influencer. I'm a radio guy. And so I'm not there to get clicks or likes or adoration or anything. And if you want to know my opinion, we have a little radio show. You might have heard of it. And then beyond that, you and I use it to find things. There are stories that come across, breaking news when it happens, whatever, and you're following it, and you don't let that change who you are. In fact, I would say, because of social media, it's not helped me, but I am more resolute in being the person that I've always been. I'm not about to let any of that stuff going on social media, whether it's good or bad, change me. Because here's the thing. What we learned from the whole thing in Minnesota, social media, that's a good thing. The back and forth and everything else and the negative responses or whatever it might be, you have to learn how to, if you're running for office, if you're going to be a public servant, you have to understand, you have to be able to differentiate between what's real and what isn't, what's true criticism, because if you can't be critiqued as a public servant, if it's based on something, and I don't mean just, hey, I don't like that guy, he's a moron. No, I don't like what you did here, I don't like your policy on this. That's stuff you have to learn from.
I just wonder, just looking at it, putting on my political consultant hat. We're going to be doing that a lot this year.
Yeah.
I wonder if that's a populist thing that he's throwing out, because that seems to be I'm staying away from social media.
Yeah.
You see that. It's almost, it can be almost virtue signaling.
Right.
I'm not, it's a mess. There's so much disinformation. Yeah, there is.
Yep.
A lot of disinformation,
right.
Out there.
And how is it that you know that? You know that because you know it when you see it.
I know
exactly.
Yeah, I know
which tells me you know how to deal with it.
I know it when I see it, and I just move on from that. And I have the ability and I'm no smarter than anybody else out there, Well, I may have my problems because when you said you don't want adoration, I'd like a little bit of it. From women, and so
There are plenty of bots.
I find my love.
Yeah.
I find my love in the Facebook bots.
Yeah, I'm sure those are real women.
I had another beautiful woman say, I got it yesterday, the message, do I know you from somewhere? You keep coming up as someone to follow. Do I know you?
Don't I know you?
And then I went to her page.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, man, and she's just gorgeous, but she only has 3 friends. So I'm being treated special.
Right.
Now, but that's the entire point. We know when you're on social media enough, you can go through the BS real quick.
If you
can,
because that's
right,
and
that's I guess that would be a great example of that.
You know, when they there was this story when they invented the inventors of the Google phone, right? They handed out in beta testing to people in the real world. They said, "Here's a free phone if you want it, but what we require of you is to give us only negative feedback. We don't want to hear what you like about the phone. We want to hear only negatives." Social media used to be a nightmare for corporations. It still can be, depending, I guess, on the corporation. But it's, if you know what you're doing, and if you know what it is, what social media is, what the landscape is, then you know the difference. Let's say you got a burger chain, and you know you hear a lot. There's a ton of feedback that comes back and says, "Yeah, I don't like your cheeseburger because I don't like the cheese." And it's a common thing, unsolicited. It's not just one person over and over, and you learn to, oh, well, wait a minute, maybe there's something here. Or you're hearing, because it is, here's this word, it is a community. I really hate that word. I hate that word. They make great coffee, but I just hate that word. It is a group of individuals, and also you need to know, well, chances are, and do the odds, chances are some of that's AI and bots and everything else. But you should pay attention to what's going on, because you look at the trends. You and I have to, see what's going on in the news. That's what we get paid to do. Comment on what's in the news. You need to know what's going on with people and what those trends are. But also, you need to compartmentalize it and know that it's not everything. So you can walk and chew gum at the same time. You can go into those communities like you did in Chicago when last summer when the, oh my gosh, it was summer 24, summer before last. Wow. When the Democrats were having their convention in Chicago, he came back as he had done earlier that year and went into the neighborhoods in Chicago. Great. Do all the above.
Yeah, but where did we see all that?
On social media.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. No.
You can't get away from it.
That's the whole, yeah, because you're watching, that is the news.
Yeah.
And as Elon Musk has put it, you are the media. One guy decided he was going to take his camera around and go try and find some of these daycares in Minnesota. Holy cow, next thing you know, the governor stepping out of the re-election bid.
Yep. Wasn't CBS,
Nope.
And I say CBS because of the change there, but I think that television in itself, and people look at the regular media, whether it's newspapers, television, radio.
Yeah.
That's why we're radio podcasting now.
Right.
You look to the future in everything, but the mainstream media doesn't control the narrative anymore.
Nope.
We're Red Eye Radio.
Get in touch with Red Eye Radio, toll free at 866-90-RED-EYE.
We're Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. So what happened yesterday was really when Klobuchar had the meeting with him, that was the National Democratic Party saying,
yeah,
you need to go.
No, I think
you're going to be the scapegoat here, and But you look at everything here of what Walz is involved in. It's everything that the Democratic Party wants the public not to pay attention to.
Right.
One is allowing criminal activity and justifying it because of race. That's the worst of identity of politics.
Right.
The quasi-welfare program and how big it has grown.
Right.
And how results don't matter, accountability doesn't matter at all.
Yeah.
And just total and complete incompetence, and they want to move away.
Yeah,
from
they
the
want
whole
this
Harris
to be gone completely. Yep.
Walz debacle.
Yep.
Top of the hour news is brought to you by House Products. Visit houseproducts.com.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One. Now, it's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
All across America, we are Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Good morning. Welcome. All right, so I just wanted to, because I had mentioned it, but I want to let you know where I actually saw it, and this was for Tim Walz, the whole thing of Klobuchar. The scuttlebutt is Klobuchar is going to run for governor, and she's going to appoint, after she wins the governorship of Minnesota, she's going to appoint Tim Walz to finish up her term. And this came from Breitbart had the story.
Yeah.
Said shortly after the news broke, the New York Times reported that Klobuchar is weighing a bid for the gubernatorial office in Walz's place. The senator confirmed her interest in succeeding the governor when the pair met in Minnesota on Sunday to discuss plans. It's also been reported that part of the plan may be for Klobuchar to keep Walz in public office as she could make him a U.S. senator if she becomes governor, according to Town Hall's Dustin Grage, I'm not sure how to pronounce the last name. The same sources, and he posted this on X, the same sources who helped predict Walz's rise to becoming former Vice President Kamala Harris's 2024 running mate said the plan is to clear the way for Amy Klobuchar so she can appoint him to the U.S. Senate, and that's the quote. So that came from X. So that's where I got that from. Just wanted to make sure that, because I'd said I thought earlier, and I just want to make sure when we make a statement like that that we let you know where we got it from.
Look, if it indeed is the party, and you and I both believe it is, so they want this baggage to be done. Also, I forget who it is. I've got to go back and see if I bookmarked. Somebody just commented, somebody I follow on X, a conservative commented and said, well, this isn't about the whole scandal. There's something else going on here, and maybe he just wants to put this behind him because he's going to make a run at 28. And I just thought, wow, okay. No, here's the thing.
What?
Are there? Yeah,
You got to let me know who that is.
Yeah, no, it was when I saw it. I just thought to myself, no, I can't believe that's coming from that person. It didn't make sense. And the one thing that I will say about that comment is, it's kind of what we said before. If you're saying, well, I'm innocent, this is just, Republican propaganda, blah, 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 you stay and fight.
Right.
I'm not going anywhere. We'll get to the bottom of it, but I'm not responsible for anything. I will certainly run my state as governor, blah, 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 blah. But you stay and you fight. There are some Democrats that may have done that. Tim Walz was never going to be one of those guys. Tim Walz is the guy who talks about fighting others. Remember when he said he could kick the asses of some of Trump's supporters?
I did get, thank you. I think it's Lois who wrote me and said, You guys are just intimidated by his masculinity.
Yeah, that's it.
That's it. Yeah,
that's it.
She was being sarcastic.
I know. But he's not a fighter. He was never going to. He's not smart enough. He's not a Hillary Clinton, Bill Clinton, cunning. Because if you think of how sophisticated the whole Russian hoax plan was, my gosh, and some of the other Clinton things, that's sophistication. Tim Walz is on the opposite side of that spectrum and was never going to be able to handle this and fumbled from day one, and that's what his own party saw. I'm convinced of that. And Klobuchar, next thing you know, is at his door going, we got to talk. Like Nancy was with Joe Biden when it was time for Joe to step down from the race. And I think that's where they are. They realize we can't have guys like Walz. He's not good for the party. He's not going to help us at all. And by the way, if it's, if this idea of Klobuchar winning and then appointing him as her own replacement in the Senate to finish out that term, it wouldn't shock me, but it would be so horrible. I mean, you would just be handing a gift to the GOP if you're trying to put the baggage behind you, which I do believe the party wants all the baggage on the Tim bus when it leaves, just like they did with Joe Biden. This is our way of getting rid of all the Biden baggage, everything, all of it, they thought. And that this is how they handle things, thinking, okay, it'll all go away. And then, whoever it is, Klobuchar or whoever is next, will come in and I promise from day one we'll get to the bottom of blah, 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 blah.
But I think that, and just let me know what you think about it, like you won't. I do think it gets back to, for example, I'm throwing this out there because this is a thought I had in my head, and I think there is some legitimacy to it because I'm saying it. No, but
stamp of approval.
No, but the Democrats are so caught up. This isn't about identity politics. This is about the individual. For example, Democrats believe that everything that they stand for is fine, that certain people can't sell it. They look at Donald Trump. They don't look at what Donald Trump's doing. They just say if Donald Trump does it, it has to be wrong.
Yeah, right.
It's got to be wrong because he is inherently evil, incompetent, Nazi, whatever.
Yeah, right.
He's everything bad. They refuse to admit. They think if they get rid of the people and put in new people, and I think Mamdani is a part of this. They look at Mamdani, and that's why when you look at the whole Venezuela thing, Maduro, he was really the spokesperson for the National Democratic Party.
Yeah.
He's the one that said the most on it. And so you look at it, and the Democratic Party is not about, they're about identity politics and about the identity of a person. They are not about the fact that the problem is where we stand on the issues. They always believe it's the person, not when the person fails. And they look at Tim Walz as a failure. And so they just go, all right, Harris, Walz, they couldn't sell it. They can't sell what we're trying to sell. And what's happening here with Walz is everything of why people vote against Democrats.
Yep.
It's identity politics.
Yep.
It's using race as an excuse for criminal activity. It's about big government spending without accountability or any concern about results. And so what do they got to do? They can't fight that narrative, so they have to say that this is all attached to Walz and it's got nothing to do with the Democratic Party. This is a failure of Walz, and I wouldn't be surprised if they throw him under the bus so bigly that that he does resign from office. I wouldn't be surprised if you saw that in the next
Well,
couple of months.
If this is going to be your plan, and you really want to cut the rope and let his dinghy sail out into the ocean on its own, don't read into that, by the way. Then you would honestly. That's the big exclamation point. That's really the crescendo. That's how you put more theatrics. Is you put the pressure on him to, hey, we need you to get out now. We need you to move on now. We need you to, because then and only then can you say, look, we weren't happy. Clearly we weren't happy, blah, 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 blah. And the day after he leaves, if he does leave early, then, maybe somebody over at CNN can start writing a book on his entire governorship. And they can start telling, the liberal media will start telling the real story of, oh, Tim Walz, oh, nobody liked him before. They'll all go that direction. You'll see it.
Well, don't be, it's happening already.
Mm-hmm.
The Department of Justice is looking into, the entire fraud situation there. Yeah. And now you've got U.S. attorneys looking at many of the blue states. And remember, Trump is in office. I thought about this. Yeah. Trump is in office for over another 3 years. Yeah. But there's going to be a focus on fraud now.
Yeah.
Going to be a focus on fraud because people look at this and go, this is unbelievable.
Right. But
the same people that are going to throw the blame, and I believe throw Walz under the bus, which has already happened. That's what happened yesterday. That's to me the Klobuchar meeting is the same people that promoted the absurdity that Tim Walz is a man's man and is the permission structure that, because you think about it, identity politics is why a white guy became the nominee for vice president on the Democrat ticket last year. Because Democrats looked at it and said, well, we need a white man in there. They said it. It wasn't like this was the analysis that we came up with by just assuming this is what they meant. They said it.
Yep.
Tim Walz said it.
Yep.
He was the permission structure because he was white to have other whites vote for a black woman, that you needed his macho. Think about how bizarre that is. And, of course, it had nothing to do with her being black. Right. It had nothing to do with her being a woman.
Right.
Why? Because if Condoleezza Rice ran for president, you'd have a ton of people that would vote for her.
Yep.
Or you would back then. I mean, I don't think she ever really wanted to run.
Mm-hmm.
But there are black women out there that people would vote for.
Oh, yeah.
Hillary Clinton, it's not because she was a woman that she didn't win political office.
No.
There is no fear in the United States. There's no fear about a woman being president of the United States. It's the woman that can sell what she believes, just like a man selling what he believes to the people of the United States. But this gets back to what we talked about. They live in the identity politics. Their entire life and narrative and environment is judging people by their skin color or ethnicity and judging them by the group they're in instead of individuals. And this is exactly what happened.
I got it. Chuck Ross, Washington Free Beacon, freebeacon.com.
Mm-hmm.
So it was Chuck that posted it yesterday. And I followed Chuck.
I like Chuck.
I like Chuck. Yeah. So, okay, there it is. So here it is. From yesterday. Actually, it was last evening. Man, I go through so much. That's the thing. We never stop on the stories. And the stories never quit just coming at you. But several hours ago, he posted, I might be wrong, but I don't think Tim Walz quit the race because of the Somali fraud stuff. Politicians don't drop out of races anymore over this kind of thing, unless he's just trying to distance himself from the headache should he run for president in 28. I disagree, Chuck, because
I disagree.
Because here's the thing. Again, other Democrats may have stayed in. Pritzker would stay in. You know what I mean? Pritzker would just go up to the microphone. You're all wrong, and blah, 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 blah. You know, and there are other Democrats that would stay in and fight. The party doesn't see Tim Walz as a fighter.
Well, here's the point. I don't think there's anything to fight. Where do you fight? What's your?
You mean there's no position to fight from?
There's
basically.
no position for Tim Walz to fight from, and
Right.
I think they look at this and say you're going to have, and it's probably a pretty good political instinct from the Democrats. You have Trump's Department of Justice the next 3 years that are going to be absolutely focused on welfare fraud.
Yeah.
We need to start with these are individuals that are allowing it. It's not that the party agrees with it.
Right.
That's what I believe. Probably that is much more likely what is happening here is they look at absolute horror of what happened in behind the scenes, not publicly, but behind the scenes. They're horrified by what happened, and now they're looking and going, how many damn blue states are doing the exact same thing that the Department of Justice is going to look at, and they're going to use not only in 2026, but 2028. We have to, as they've done before, throw people under the bus.
Yeah.
And Tim Walz is the guy that has to be thrown under the bus.
Right. No, I think that, and I think many of them look at it and say, this is his fault. Because Democrats are okay with fraud. Democrats are okay with fraud. This is $9 billion on the state level that is just, I mean, this mountain just
it
keeps
could be
getting
as
bigger.
high as that.
Yeah, it could be
right.
as high as $9 billion. And on the state level, if it reaches that, my gosh. Because, again, we don't know what else might be out there. Think about any other programs that aren't related to these.
Oh, yeah. These are just a what, 1% of the programs that exist out there?
Right. And I believe they look at it and say, look, if you're going to allow fraud and turn your head the other way, you got to do a better job at it. I think they look at him as incompetent all the way across.
Right.
Get out.
We are Red Eye Radio.
This morning's USDA Farm Report is brought to you by House Products. Tested, trusted, guaranteed since 1920.
2025 was a tale of two economies in the farm sector based on commodity category. Former Agriculture Department Chief Economist Seth Meyer says for crop growers,
as commodity prices have come down for their 22-23 peak, we haven't necessarily seen the same moderation in the input price side. And that tends to squeeze margins pretty significantly.
add trade disruptions, and Meyer says that adds to stress on the crop side of farm income. For the livestock sector,
Things have been looking pretty good. We've seen record high feeder and fed cattle prices.
fueled by both a contracted cattle herd and strong consumer demand for beef specifically and proteins in general. Meyer believes USDA's January cattle report will perhaps indicate if the current contraction phase is nearly over and perhaps the beginning of an upturn in inventory. I'm Rod Bain reporting for the U.S. Department of Agriculture in Washington, D.C.
This report brought to you by Cenex Fuels and Lubes.
We'll be right back with more Red Eye Radio with Eric Harley and Gary McNamara.
Here, Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Coming up on the bottom of the hour, some surprising audio from The View.
Okay.
And also Fetterman on Maduro and Venezuela.
Yeah.
Really, really interesting.
Right.
And plus one more thing on Tim Walz. I mean, just and this is actually looking back about how the media built him up.
Yeah.
And the things that they said about him. because it was so bizarre. And it got to the point with Tim Walz where, you would look at it and say, well, it's self-evident that he isn't who they're attempting to promote.
Right.
And we have said over and over again to the Democrats and even Republicans on certain things that the worst thing you can do in politics is take something that is absolutely self-evident to the public and tell them that it doesn't exist, that it's something else, that you're reading it wrong.
Yep.
We'll get to that coming up.
You're listening to Red Eye Radio from the Uniden America Studios.
And we are Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. And one of the, by the way, download our Red Eye Radio app today, and you can listen when and where you choose. All right?
And thank you.
Yes. So it's not going away. One of the reasons, and again, this is why I believe that everything that happened in the last couple of days is basically the National Democratic Party trying to say this is an isolated thing with Tim Walz. And anywhere else it pops up, they're going to blame that Democrat politician.
Right.
Because everything here is about identity politics. It's about protecting criminals because of identity politics. And it's about the welfare state out of control on a national level, which is the core of the Democratic Party.
Yeah.
Here's the problem. Trump cuts off $10 billion in funding to 5 blue states for child care, social services over fraud fears. This is a story yesterday. I'm reading this from the New York Post. Trump administration is cutting off more than $10 billion in social services and child care funding meant for a handful of Democrat-led states over concerns that the benefits were fraudulently funneled to non-citizens, officials told the Post on Monday. The Department of Health and Human Services will freeze taxpayer funding from the Child Care Development Fund, the Temporary Assistance for Needy Families, and the Social Services Block Grant Program. The states, at least $7.35 billion in money will be prevented from going to California, Colorado, Illinois, Minnesota, and New York. The additional $2.4 billion in other funding affects all those states. Another $869 million from the Social Services Block Grant coffers is also being kept from all 5 states as well. The funding pauses were announced via letters to each state sent on Monday, citing concerns that benefits were fraudulently going to non-U.S. citizens. The HHS Office of Inspector General found more than 6 years ago that New York City improperly billed the federal government for more than $24.7 million in child care subsidies. Kirsten Gillibrand of New York blasted the Trump administration. To use the power of the government to harm the neediest Americans is immoral and indefensible. This has nothing to do with the fraud or everything to do with political retribution that punishes poor children in need of assistance. I demand that President Trump unfreeze this funding and stop this brazen attack on our children. In normal times, you might be able to get away with that.
Yeah. Right.
Minnesota changes everything.
Yep.
These inquiries were followed by probes. HHS also previously sent letters in December to Minnesota Governor Tim Walz and the Minneapolis Mayor Jacob Frey asking whether billions of taxpayer dollars helped unlawfully fuel illegal and mass migration. Those inquiries were followed by probes. The Treasury Department and House Oversight Committee also launched into the mounting fraud scandal, which involves several nonprofits linked to the Somali community in the Twin Cities. Around 130,000 illegal immigrants resided in Minnesota as of 2023, an increase of around 40,000 from 2019, and roughly 2% of the population, according to the Pew Research Center. Federal prosecutors have secured dozens of convictions relating to $250 million in funds stolen by one of the Somali-linked organizations, Feeding Our Future, which used the ill-gotten gains to purchase luxury cars and real estate buildings. Trump doing this now makes it so Democrats have to respond. It makes it a story.
Yep.
You know, you had the you had, I can't think of his name now, Shirley, the one guy, who took his camera into the child care centers.
Right.
Then you had one of the other networks go in and say, well, we didn't find the same thing he found. We found some people there. But then it went back to another, I think it was a local TV crew had gone in and said, well, yeah, we found people there, but no children.
Right.
And so what happens is there is a forced discussion and investigation into all of this. And if there's fraud in Minnesota that you found to this extent, the Democratic Party is scared to death that there's massive fraud in these programs. And if the Trump administration can successfully say this is something that Democrats support, Klobuchar, whatever,
right.
She also supports all of this going in without any type of accountability as to where the money is going and whether the money is being effectively used or not. And they find the massive fraud in all of these liberal states. Well, that hurts the Democratic Party more.
That's the problem.
It just adds on to everything else.
Exactly, and that's the problem with the liberal activist media. The great thing about Trump, being involved and the right being involved in this is that if the liberal activist media wants to set out to prove them wrong, they're only bound to discover more items. They have to be, the party itself has to be right now sweating profusely over this whole thing because you open one door, open the wrong door, and who knows how many of these skeletons are going to fall out. You don't know. You don't want this to go any further. This is, again, where we think this is by design. The party wants to put Tim on the bus, the whole baggage, everything, and then bye-bye, and think that this is going to be over. The problem is it's not just about Tim Walz. He's the guy in charge as the governor. It's not just about Tim Walz. It's not just him that made this whole or allowed this whole thing to happen.
And Trump is forcing a discussion and investigations into all of this.
Yes.
Because of the fury that Democrats are going to show. Okay, you're furious about this. Now you've got to argue. Are you going to defend Minnesota?
Right.
What do you do?
Well, because, again, are you going to do your own investigation, right, set out to prove Trump wrong? Well, you can't do that. You don't dare. Again, you don't dare open any more closet doors on this.
Now, I wanted to get to stuff that just made me laugh because it's almost like the beginning of the year. Let's have a little bit of nostalgia towards the past, but it was the National Review article that was written by Brittany Bernstein about Tim Walz, and it says, it's fitting that Walz was ultimately, by the way, this is for our entertainment purposes only, and yours if you want to, but it's for entertainment purposes only. Well, it does make a couple of points. It's fitting that Walz was ultimately taken down by a scandal that kicked off thanks to the work of a journalistic entrepreneur using social media rather than by a legacy outlet. Mainstream outlets, for the most part, treated Walz with kid gloves since he first entered the national scene in 2024 as a running mate for Kamala Harris's unsuccessful White House nod. The media has fought to paint Walz as a competent leader and gentle yet manly average Joe with a folksy demeanor. In 2024, as Recline wrote in the New York Times, asking, is Tim Walz the Midwestern dad Democrats need? Another Times opinion article by journalist Sarah Schmarz declared, Tim Walz is an absolute bomb for my country heart, and said the Minnesota governor fills a decades-long geographic messaging gap for the party. The Guardian said Walz comes across as what he is, a straight-talking teacher, America's youth football coach. At the same time, the Associated Press declared it would be hard to find a more vivid representative of the American heartland than Walz.
Yeah.
Anytime Walz came under scrutiny for adopting a radical position on cultural issues that put the lie to his moderate Midwestern image, commentators would contort themselves to defend his policy choices as common sense and compassionate. Now, this is the best one here. This ends with a bang. When Walz was criticized for having signed a bill that provides free menstrual products in Minnesota school boys' bathrooms, Washington Post columnist Monica Hess came to his defense claiming, I will point out that in high school, any boy who casually was like, oh, you got your period? I stashed a pad from the bathroom in my backpack in case one of my friends needed it. That boy would be King Stud, and that boy would be drowning in prom invites. These people are crazy. They're absolutely insane.
Look how far she had to go to make that point.
I know.
Wow.
And
had it happened ever, and by the way, it doesn't look, if he was going to, if that, I don't know, made up boy that's going to be this hero were truly a hero, well, he doesn't need them in the bathroom. He can get them anywhere.
Right.
It's legal for him to buy them.
Right. He can go, any high school boy can go out and buy them and hand them out to the women.
That's right.
To the girls
I
in his
always
class.
keep one. And also, it would be weird. Hey, I keep these in my backpack. Get away from me, you weirdo.
But that was, again, when he came out with the jazz hands, it ended there. Remember, he did the twirl and everything else, and it was just like, and then when he came out and said, he's that he represents a new kind of masculinity. And we're all laughing. We're like...
Permission structure.
He's the permission structure because he's the football coach. He's got that masculinity, which is the permission structure. So other white men who will not vote for a black woman, that because a white man like Tim Walz says you can vote for her, then, they treat people as if they treat adults as if they're children.
Right.
That have to be led by somebody like Tim Walz.
Yeah.
My God, I'd follow the Pied Piper before Tim Walz.
Permission structure, because you didn't have permission before.
Right.
It wasn't okay before.
I need somebody like Tim Walz. I'd never vote for a black woman, ever. No. Oh, my gosh. Tim Walz. Well, he's my permission structure where I can now vote for a black woman.
Yeah, growing up, I had a Tim Walz poster in my room. One of my heroes.
Don't pay attention to whether she's black or not.
It's just so stupid.
I know. They treat adults as if they're children.
Yes.
And they don't realize they're doing it.
Right.
They think it's some type of virtue signaling.
No, they really believe, again, they're being heroes. If a young boy had just...
I have hung out with so many people in my life. The modern liberal today, where did they come from? I don't see these people anywhere.
I don't know.
And I'm exposed to a great deal of a number of people, and I'm back to New York all the time. I never meet these people.
No. Yeah, it's over the top insanity, and it has me believing a little bit more in the possibility of extraterrestrials being here.
And when I do meet these people, because they may post on social media, acquaintances and supporting this stuff, and I get them one-on-one, they back down all the time.
Yeah.
They backed down
Well,
all
on
the
social media, you can be a hero.
Yeah, they backed down all. But you know, I just don't agree with. Yeah, but you're promoting this, and you know it's garbage. You know it's
Right.
not true. You know a
Right.
man can't be a woman.
Right.
Well, I know that, but the Republicans are just so not talking about that. Talking about you're taking a stance on an issue that makes you look insane.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's not how I meant it to be. I actually got into a discussion on that a few months back and realized they actually don't believe it.
Right.
They just have to promote it.
Right. Because they want to look better.
But they look like idiots. And the
They
fact
do.
And the fact that they're not aware, there's no
Yeah.
self-awareness that
Right.
this is a moronic point to make.
Right.
I should take a better point if I'm going to defend Democrats.
Insane.
Thank you. We are Red Eye Radio.
Coming up, more with Gary McNamara and Eric Harley. It's Red Eye Radio.
We are Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. So it'll be fascinating to see what happens in Minnesota in 2026.
Yeah.
Just, you know, whether they'll look at this, whether the population of Minnesota, the independents, will look at this and say mass incompetence. But
Right.
I don't think Democrats are really that concerned with the fraud by what we've seen already. I mean, they got a tremendous amount of money from the Somali community. And, you know, you had the whistleblowers out there. You had that employee group. Everybody saw this, and they just ignored it.
Yep.
They didn't care. Walz didn't care about the fraud.
Nope.
Didn't care.
Nope.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One.